Solar is one of the most confusing things when it comes to building your new camper van. If you do it the right way, you actually will be able to upgrade your solar depending on what you decide you need, even after you've cut your first hole in the roof. But if you do it the wrong way, it's gonna make it really difficult later on. Follow along, we're gonna show you how to do this the right way.
Welcome to Flippin' Vans. We're a van conversion company here in Denver. We're a bunch of friends here to help share pro tips, funny content, and be a one-stop shop for everything you need to live your best van life.
La la let me be. La la let me be. La la let me be free.
Well, when it comes to putting the solar in your roof, there's many ways to do it. We often put our panels on the deck, but you can also put the panels straight onto the roof. But regardless of how you attach the actual panels to the van, you're gonna have to pipe those wires into your van somehow so that you can actually get the power going into the battery that you have stored inside. Well, how do you do that? That's the question. There's a few different ways. Some people I've seen just literally drill holes, stuff wires in, and then silicone around that. I don't think that's a great way. There's some companies that make these adapter flange pieces that are called solar entry housings. There's a few different ones. Renogy makes this black one here, or there's another company that makes this white one, and we're gonna link this in the description. This is the new one we've started using, and we really like this one. I think the main reason I like it is because of two things. It has holes so that you can screw and actually just tap the screws into the van, which I think is really important. This one has no screw holes on it at all, so it makes you have to just adhesive it and then just kind of hope it stays down. This one has those screws, and it actually also sits a little bit lower, so it's a little bit more low profile there. And the nice thing about that, if you're deciding to put it underneath a panel or put the panel on top of this or whatever, this actually allows you to do that, whereas this one sits up too high that you actually can't attach the panel to the roof with this underneath, and you have to have it next to the panel on the outside. So this is the one we're gonna go with today. Some tools that are gonna make this job super easy. It's gonna be a drill. We're actually gonna use a hole saw. So you could use a drill and you could jigsaw it like you would on a fan or whatever, but a nice hole saw cuts metal a lot smoother and gives you a nice round hole there. It doesn't make you have to jig up this little hole. So I'm gonna use a 2-incher. A 2-inch hole saw makes it so it still fits underneath the entry housing without going too big. That's gonna be really, really key. Milwaukee makes those. We use all Milwaukee, only Milwaukee. And then also just an impact driver to screw this in. I also have, I'm gonna use my Flex Shot, my handy dandy Flex Shot that I love, to seal it, and then I'm also gonna put it around afterwards. So I'm gonna put that underneath before I screw in. I'm also gonna use a little deburring tool. This is just something that cleans up the metal before I cut it. I used a socket wrench, a crescent wrench here, so that I could just tighten these guys on. Let's get up there and I'll show you how to start getting going on this. So one thing to remember, again, when working with metal, always wear safety glasses. Do it with wood too, but especially with metal. Metal shards are gnarly. So I've got my drill with my 2-inch hole saw. I'm gonna drill a hole right here. This is something where it doesn't really matter, at least for our builds, exactly where it is. I'm gonna do it right here on this surface because it gives me something nice to screw into against this whole rib here. If you have a van where you decide you need it at a certain place, maybe you need to really measure that out, but we don't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drill this hole halfway across this line. And again, this is something that you wanna do before you've got your floor, before you've got anything else inside, if you can help it, because there's gonna be metal shards everywhere. So it's a lot easier to do these things first. You can run the wiring and everything later, but just get these things out of the way before you start getting anything pretty inside your van. Kind of scary to get a hole in your van like that, but with the hole saw, I mean, that's almost smooth already. That's a really clean hole. Still sharp, so be careful, but that's a really nice way to do it rather than jigging and getting all up in it. So now I'm gonna go to install this guy. Fits nicely on those ribs. I knew that, but you should probably test that first. If it's hanging off the side, you could do something like some butyl tape to build up a ridge like on your fan, but really getting it like that is how I want it. I'm gonna pre-drill these holes first, just to make that a little bit easier for my screws to go in. Comes with these 3 screws here. They're a little bit bigger, so I've got some room to work with. So again, just kind of making sure that it's really gonna seal that thing flush, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pre-drill these screws. I'm gonna get my flex shot, and I like to do just a little bead of this, maybe even not so little bead, around this ridge first. So when I go to screw these screws in, they have something to kind of seal up with. And then after I screw it in, I'm gonna go around the outside edge and I'll add some more of that flex shot. But I'm just gonna get this nice on there. And then after those screws are in, I'm gonna go around on the outside edge. Let's add a little bit more of that flex shot. And then I'll just smooth that guy out. And then similar strategy to the fan with this stuff. Anytime you're cutting a hole in your van or you're trying to seal up a hole, more is better for sealant. It's not a big deal to have a ton of extra stuff on there. This stuff is nice, it looks nice, it's clear, it doesn't yellow. I can just put a little extra over each of my screws so that it doesn't ever even get down into those little grooves. You really don't want any water going into your van. So having it done this way is definitely the way to do it. And now I'm gonna grab my wires and we'll put those in. So I've got my wires. One thing to note, and I've done this wrong, so don't do this. These wires are not marked, but they each have a different end there. So one is a male and one is a female end. I only know this because I've done it before, and on my solar panels it says which is positive, negative, but still not red or black, or it doesn't help at all. The one that is the female end on this wire is the positive wire. So I've gone ahead and double check that, look at the bottom of your solar panels, make sure you know. But I've gone ahead and marked this with a piece of tape, just because once you get it in the van, it's hard to even tell which wire is coming in from which side, and it's really a pain. You don't want those to be backwards. So these give you a ton of extra wiring. These came in our Renogy solar panel kit, which I'll also link in the description. Doesn't matter which hole they go into. So I'm just gonna get these down into the van. Once I get them right about there, I'm probably gonna have to go inside real quick and fish them down into that hole. They kind of are a pain to get down into the hole. So I'm just gonna leave them there. I'm gonna run inside and just kind of pull them through. One thing I almost just forgot, and I've done this before, and I don't wanna forget on a video where I'm trying to show people how to do it, is these caps. So these caps actually go on top of these, and once you tighten them down on top of the wires, they tighten around the wires and they make that a waterproof connection. So before you put the wires in those holes, make sure you've got these caps on there. You can just let those hang now, because you want to get the wires on, pull the wires through, then you're going to tighten the cap down to tighten it on the wire. So don't forget to do that, otherwise you'll have your wire all the way through and then you won't have a way to tighten it on. And like I said, once you get these in here, it's really hard to identify which is which. So that's why you want to make sure that you've got that one labeled beforehand. Then you're just going to go ahead and wrap these guys up, tuck them out of your way until you get to the part where you're going to put the solar and the charge controller in here. But I'm going to go back outside, get those ends tightened, and then we'll finish the job. So here you're gonna wanna find out about how much wire you're gonna wanna keep outside your van. I know for where we put our solar panels on top of our rooftop decks, that we're only gonna need about 1.5 feet maybe of wire. The panels themselves have about 1.5 feet or 2 feet of wire coming off it. So you have a little bit of extra wiring there. Something you could also adjust later on, just pull these out and do it. But once you start building out the van, it's gonna be harder to pull the wires out. So you'd rather have more than less, obviously. But again, for my sake, I know I need about 1 foot out here, and that's good. So I get those to the ends. Then I'll just go ahead and tighten these caps on, which is what actually seals the wire itself. Well, we've got our solar cut in. That was a 15-minute job, really easy. The nice thing about it, Renogy makes these, other companies also make them, but now that we have our wires hooked in and those output female and male connectors just hanging out there, they make these connectors that you can either plug one panel straight into that, or you could use these connectors, which are like a double splitter or a triple splitter. So whether you wanted to put 2, 3, they even make a 4 splitter onto the outside of that wire, you can do that now and add more panels without ever having to cut another hole in. So this is the way to do it. Makes it all sealed up. Looks really nice. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, check out what we're doing. Bring a van our way, we'll build it for you here in Denver, or Watch all the videos and you'll figure out how to build an awesome camper van of your own.